welcome back to Mercury Reliance. Today I want to chat with you folks out there who think your savings in dollars are safe. And I'm going to explain to you in very simple terms why they're not safe. Money is simply a tool for exchanges in goods and services. If a baker decides that he needs some meat, he needs to trade with the farmer so he can get some meat. But if all he has to trade is a few loaves of bread, the farmer is not going to work with him because he's not going to rip a hunk off his cow. So a medium of exchange, or a tool of exchange, needed to be created. And that's where money was first thought of. So money was created originally just as another way of bartering, essentially. That's all it is. So a loaf of bread could be worth an ounce of silver, for instance. That's a really good loaf of bread. But the idea is that you could carry around a way to divide different products or different services. It was a way to exchange that was intelligent. So gold and silver were simply used as a medium of exchange. The problem with gold and silver is they're very heavy. A 1 ounce round is not so bad, but if you've got hundreds of them, it becomes very cumbersome. So really this is what created, or what gave birth to, the dollar. You would go to a jeweler, is how it was a long time ago, which we now become, we would call bankers, because they're the ones who hold the gold or the silver. And that jeweler or banker would issue you a note in exchange for your coins. So you would be able to use this. Now this is even easier to carry around. That's where the problem lies, is that you are no longer in possession of something that's really valuable. Now all you got is a piece of paper, a promissory note, but it would say at the bottom, this is backed by 1 ounce of silver. This is where we start to get into problems. I'm going to show you something about what happens when a jeweler or a banker or a nation separates these two, where they say this is of value, but they won't tell you what it's backed by. Because if you look at your bills in your wallet right now, it doesn't say anything about being backed by gold, backed by silver, even though that's how it started out. And it was less than 40 years ago in the United States where that separation happened. Similar in Canada. The problem, and the scary problem, is that this isn't the first time that the experiment of separating real wealth in metals from paper wealth has happened. And I'm going to show you something to demonstrate to you what happens when you separate the two, and what happens to the value of this note. So, I'm going to give a very simple illustration. The jeweler, or the banker, or the country that's holding your metals, your dollars, your real dollars, gold or silver, in the bank, came to learn that nobody goes in to get their gold. Nobody goes in to collect their silver. They're really happy with these paper notes. Everybody's accepting them everywhere. They're easy to carry. So the banker's got a good idea. And let's start loaning out money that's not ours. The jewelers did this. The bankers did this. And now countries are doing this. They're loaning out dollars that aren't theirs. It's called fractional reserve banking. It's not a very complicated process, but to understand it, that'll be another day. So they start loaning out money that's not theirs. What happens then is the dollars that are out in circulation effectively become worth less. This is supply and demand. You print more dollars, the dollars become worth less. What that means is you can buy less with that dollar. So it continues. They lend more, they lend more. Now that $1 that you were using that used to buy you a loaf of bread won't. Now you need $100 to buy a loaf of bread. Now remember, just a little while ago, that would have been 100 silver coins. So they keep loaning out, and they keep loaning out, and they keep loaning out. And that's not enough. Now you need $1,000 to buy a loaf of bread. And they loan out more. And meanwhile, they're collecting interest on it. That's a whole other day. So now you need $1 million to buy a loaf of bread. $10 billion to buy a loaf of bread. Eventually, the paper is worth more than the value of the currency. And if you think I'm kidding, I have something to show you. Gold and paper currencies. Paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value of 0. And these are the words from Voltaire. I'd like to thank the folks from Bullion Management Group for this wonderful illustration of just what happens to paper dollars when you start printing more. If we go over here, the nation of Zimbabwe went through a tumultuous period very recently when they started printing and printing and printing. Below that, Angola, there's a 500,000 note. Below that, Peru, 100,000. That was in 1989. Turkey, we've got a $5 million note. Belarus, 100,000. Bolivars from Venezuela, $10,000 note. Bear in mind, at one time, people were exchanging ones. That's no zeros. Brazil, in 1993, there's a $500,000 note. Russia, 10,000. Georgia, $1 million. Ukraine, 10,000. Hungary, 10 million. And we continue on. Central Bank of China in 1947 was issuing a $10,000 note. Things have changed a great deal in China since then. Moving along to Germany, prior to the Second World War, a $1 billion note. Again, Germany is in a completely different situation now. Moving along, Zaire, $5 million note. And the daddy of all numbers on this poster here, a $10 billion note in 1993 when Yugoslavia's economy collapsed. These are relatively recent, folks. 10,000 note in Argentina in 1985. Bosnia, $100 million note. Greece, $25,000 note. So you getting the picture here? These are all nations that separated their currency from something that was tangible and real, and it's usually gold that defines a nation's wealth. So if we zoom in right to the center of this poster here, here's a coin from approximately 413 to 406 BC from somewhere in Greece, and the gold in those coins still holds value today. You can still buy real stuff with this metal, whereas all the other paper bills here are only interesting. They will not buy you anything. This should be a message to you guys out there who think your dollars are safe. These are nations where they printed and printed and printed until they collapsed. So take a good hard look at our economy today and say, what do you want to be holding? You want to hold paper or do you want metal? Thanks for listening, folks. I look forward to doing another video that's hopefully a little more upbeat very soon, and we can all have a good smile. Thank you again for your time.